Dear learner, good afternoon everyone. I welcome all of you to the online session regarding the block 4. It is India on the eve of the advent of the Mughals. The block is divided into four chapters: Sher Saha, Administration and Reforms, Mughal Administrative Institutions, Japti, Mansab and Jagir. Then the third one, religious tolerance, Sul e Kul, and the last chapter, there is the Mughal art and architecture. Let us discuss about this chapter. The broad concept of the chapter and topic is that the administrative reform of Sher Saha is our first discussion. Delhi Sultanate had a regular system of administration. They initiated a number of administrative machinery and institutions. It was reformed by Sher Saha, and the administrative reform of Sher Saha is proved as one of the efficient system in the history of medieval India. He not only reformed the existing system, what he inherited from the Sultanate, but he introduced some innovative things in his administration. And a number of administrative machinery what he created became followed by the ruler of other ruling dynasties, contemporary rulers, and then by the Mughals and the British. So it is an important chapter so far as the history of medieval India is concerned. Then other concept, broad concept, what we are going to discuss about the Mughal administrative institutions. It is Mughal administrative institution, what I believe the name of the chapter is. We are not going to discuss entire administrative machinery of the Mughals, but the administrative mechanism what started by Babur and later on Jahangir. Akbar reformed it. He introduced his innovative ideas and Japti, Mansab and Jagir he created in his own style. Later on, throughout the Mughal period of administration, these three played important role so far as the expansion and consolidation of the Mughal Empire was concerned. That means this administrative machinery proved as an institutions for smooth and efficient working of the Mughal administration. That is why, in the name of the institution, we are going to discuss that. Then the third chapter, it is religious toleration, sul ekul. It is nothing but the religious conviction, nothing but the outcome of the religious conviction and spiritual understanding of Akbar. Akbar later on followed a policy of religious toleration, equality, and justice for all. He believed in social harmony and coexistence. That is the outcome of his religious understanding and spiritual conviction. That concept, that idea, he rightly used in his administrative policies. That ideal became a policy. Accordingly, the Rajput policy, the religious policy, his policy of taxation, his treatment towards the non-Muslims and others developed. So that particular concept made him a national ruler, and one can very well say that he was he was a ruler who worked for national integration. That we'll discuss later on what type of policy that was. But however, it is a policy of Akbar so far as the enlightened despotism of Akbar was concerned. So it is a policy unlike other Mughal rulers. Here, Akbar is famous for that particular administrative policy. Then the fourth one, it is about the Mughal art and architecture. In the field of music, architecture, paintings, and others, the Mughal achieved a high water mark. It is the result of their love of art. It is their respect to tradition and realism. It is their aesthetic sense for which they patronize art and architecture, and the peace and prosperity help them to patronize the art activities. And that the contribution of the Mughal ruler to the field of art and architecture was one of the remarkable achievement of the Mughals. They are very well remembered in the history for their art. So, in that way, we are going to discuss about the block 4. Here, I want to say one thing, that the name of the block 4 is India on the eve of the advent of the Mughals. I personally believe that it is not appropriate so far as the chapterization of the block is concerned. Why I am saying these things? That students should have a clear understanding about the formation of the chapter to understand the concept, ideas, and terms of that particular unit or chapter. ମୋ ମତରେ understanding of the syllabus is a must. କନସେପ୍ଟ ଜାଣିବା ପାଇଁ ସେହି ଚ୍ୟାପ୍ଟରରେ ଯାହା ଆଇଡ଼ିଆ ଥିବ, ଯାହା ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ ଥିବ, ସେସବୁକୁ ସଠିକ ରୂପେ ବୁଝିବା ପାଇଁ ସେ ସିଲାବସର ପ୍ୟାଟର୍ନଟାକୁ, ତାର ଫର୍ମେସନଟାକୁ ଜାଣିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ। ଏହି ମର୍ମରେ ଯଦି ଏହି ଚ୍ୟାପ୍ଟରଟାକୁ ମୋଗଲ ଆଗମନ କାଳୀନ ଭାରତ ବୋଲିକିରି କୁହାଯିବ, ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ ଅନ୍ ଦି ଇଭ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଦି ଆଡଭେଣ୍ଟ ଅଫ୍ ଦି ମୋଗଲ୍ସ, ତାହେଲେ କାହିଁକି ମୋତେ ଏଇଟା ଏପ୍ରୋପ୍ରିଏଟ୍ ଲାଗୁନାହିଁ। ଶେର ଶାହା created the second Afghan rule. It was within the Mughal period. During the period of Sher Shah, the Mughal rule had already established. शेर शाह शासन आरंभ करिवार समय दिल्ली रो शासन आरंभ करिवार समय पूर्व मुगल मानकर शासन आरंभ हो जाइतिला। जदि 1526 रे हम मुगल शासन आरंभ कहिबा बाबर को समय रु, ताहेले शेर शाहंकर दिल्ली रो शासन होची 1540 रु 1545, 1542 1545. Then the second chapter is about the administrative machinery created by Akbar, and it is the period of both expansion and consolidation of the Mughal empire. So এই চ্যাপ্টরটাକୁ যদি দেখা যায় মোগল আগমନ କାଳୀନ ଭାରତ ବୋଲି କହିଲେ ଯୁକ୍ତିଯୁକ୍ତ ହେଉନାହିଁ। ଠିକ ସେହିଭଳି ଆକବରଙ୍କର सुल एकुल उदार ଧର୍ମନୀତି ସମ୍ବନ୍ଧୀୟ ଆଲୋଚନା ଏବଂ ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ଚେପ୍ଟର ଯୋଉଟା ରହିଛି ମୋଗଲ ଆର୍ଟ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଆର୍କିଟେକ୍ଚର। ମୋଗଲ ଆର୍ଟ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଆର୍କିଟେକ୍ଚର ହଉଛି ମୋଗଲ ଯୁଗର ସର୍ବଶ୍ରେଷ୍ଠ ଉପଲବ୍ଧି। ତେଣୁକରି ଏହି ଚ୍ୟାପ୍ଟରଟାକୁ ମୋଗଲ ଆଗମନ କାଳୀନ ଭାରତର ଇତିହାସ ବୋଲି କହିଲେ ଅ- ଟିକେ ତ୍ରୁଟି ରହିଯାଉଛି ବୋଲି ଆମେ ଭାବିବା। ଏଇଟା ମୋର ନିଜସ୍ୱ ମତ। ତେଣୁକରି ମୋଗଲ ଆଗମନ କାଳୀନ ଭାରତ ନ ହେଇକିରି ଯଦି ମୋଗଲ ସମୟର ଭାରତ ଦିଜ ଅଫ୍ ଦି ମୋଗଲସ ହେଇଥିଲେ ଏଇଟା ବେଟର ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା। However, we cannot blame the syllabus maker. Most probably it is to end the paper one. In the time of remodeling of the syllabus they have made it. ସିଲାବସ୍ ଟାକୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ରିମଡେଲ କରାହେଇଛି ସେତେବେଳେ ବୋଧେ ଏମିତି ହେଇଯାଇଛି ଏବଂ ପ୍ରଥମ ପେପରର ଶେଷ ୟୁନିଟ୍ ହିସାବରେ ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ ଅଲ୍ ରାଇଟ୍। ଦେନ୍ ଇନ୍ ଦି ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ପେପର ୱିଲ୍ ଡିସ୍କସ୍ ଅବାଉଟ୍ ଦି advent of the Europeans, 16th century history of the 16th century India. Anyhow, let us discuss about the first topic of block 4. It is Sher Saha. It is about Sher Saha. The period of Sher Saha is important for his brilliant administrative system, his reform. He achieved success in all spheres of administration. Secondly, why his period is a remarkable period in the history of medieval India. The second parameter is about the spirit of enlightened despotism. He followed a liberal religious policy towards his subject. He started from a Jagir and became the emperor of India so far as the successor of Mughal rule is concerned, though he ruled for a very short period, that is 1540 to 1545. So it proved his statesmanship and organization capacity. He was also a military genius and an enlightened despot. Now his career, he began his career as Jagirdar from Sasaram, from a small place of Bihar. He attended the services of the Afghan governor Bahar Khan Lohani of South Bihar. By 1528, due to his merit and efficiency, he became the independent ruler of South Bihar. He assumed the title Hazrat Ala and Sher Khan. It is said that he had killed a tiger, and accordingly, Bahar Khan Lohani gave him the title of Sher Khan. It is proved that from the very beginning he was entrepreneur. He had all the ability to create a strong empire, strong and powerful empire. Then, by 1528, he was successful in a series of military campaigns. He extended his territory, consolidated his position in South Bihar, by which he became a challenge for the Mughals and the hope for the Afghans. Dear student, you must have remembered In 1526 ଇବ୍ରାହିମ ଲୋଦିଙ୍କୁ ପରାସ୍ତ କରିକିରି ବାବର ମୋଗଲ ସାମ୍ରାଜ୍ୟର ସ୍ଥାପନା କରିଥିଲେ। ତାପରେ କିଛି ବର୍ଷ ପରେ ପୁଣି ଆଫଗାନ ମାନଙ୍କର ଅଭ୍ୟୁଦୟ ହେଲା। That means he was a hope for the Afghans. Subsequently, he occupied Chunar, then Bihar and Bengal. His most important political achievement, apart from his reforms and administration, was foundation of the Afghan rule in India. Though he ruled for a very short period, 5 years, so to say 1540 to 1545, it is a remarkable period so far as his remarkable achievement was concerned. He defeated Humayun in the Battle of Chausa, then in the Battle of Kannauj, by which he successfully removed the Mughals and established the Afghan Empire and ruled for only 5 years. But the 5 years rule is important in the history of medieval India, what we have discussed in the beginning. It is for his innovative administrative machinery and reform what he implemented in the system of administration what was continuing in the medieval period. Why it is important? His administration is a model for his successor. His reform was an example for other ruling dynasties, contemporary ruling dynasties, regarding the efficiency of administration and consolidation of the empire. It is a landmark because he got success in administrative reforms, which influenced his successor and other ruler of the then time. His administrative mechanism or machinery was followed by the Mughals and later on by the British. His administrative machinery, in fact, bears so many parameters of the modern administrative system. ଯୋଉ ଶାସନଗତ ସଂସ୍କାର ସେ ଆଣିଥିଲେ, ଶାସନରେ ଯୋଉ ଇନୋଭେଟିଭ ଜିନିଷ ସେ ଆପ୍ଲାଏ କରିଥିଲେ, ତାହା ନିହାତି ଭାବରେ ରିଜନେବଲ ରିଏଲିଟି ଥିବା ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା ଏବଂ ସାଇଣ୍ଟିଫିକାଲି ସେ ସବୁ ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା ପ୍ରମାଣିତ ହେଇଛି ବିଭିନ୍ନ ସମୟରେ ଯେ ସେହି ପ୍ରକାର ଶାସନ ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥାର ଅନୁକରଣ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଆମେ ମଡର୍ନ ପିରିୟଡରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଦେଖୁଛି। Now, his detailed administration. Like other administrative examples of earlier period, he had also a group of ministers or high officials to assist him. There were, in other words, there were officials at the center to assist the emperor. But he well defined the power, function, and responsibility of those ministers. In the top, there was office of the Diwane Wizarat, like that of Wizarat of the Sultanate period. Wazir was the prime minister during Sultanate period, but he redefined the office. The function of income, expenditure was the responsibility of the Wizarat. Wizarat had also the responsibility of supervising other minister. Then other important ministry are Ariz, Diwane Ariz, in charge of military affairs, Diwane Risalat, in charge of the diplomatic relation and foreign affairs of the state, then Diwane Insa, in charge of the making of government reports, records, and functioning of the royal court. Then Diwane Qazi, head of the judicial department, Diwane Barid, head of the intelligence matter. Then reorganization of the administrative units. Sher Saha reorganized the administrative units. He divided the entire empire into 47 units. These administrative units was known as Sarkar. Sarkar was headed by Munsi Pai Munsifan. He was in charge of that. Munsi Pai Munsifan was in charge of the civil administration. He supervised other lower officials like Amins and others. Next to Munsi Pai Munsifan, other important office was Sikdar I Sikdaran. He was in charge of law and order. He supervised the works of the Sikdars. Then other administrative units. Each sarkar was subdivided into several parganas. In the parganas, there were officials like Sikdar, Amirs, and Munsi. They were in charge of the general administration of the parganas. They were assisted by lower officials like Chaudhary, Patwari, and Makdams. For the first time, he reorganized the treasury so far as the administrative history is concerned. A new post was created in Parganas. It was in the office of the treasury was in center. Here in Pargana also there was office of treasury, royal treasury, and Fotedar was in charge of the treasury of Pargana. Then a new post created by him for making the record update. He appointed clerks. It was a new designation known as Karkuns. So Karkun were the clerks. One thing is very important here. These officials, the power function of these officials were well defined. ଏବଂ ଶେର ଶାହ ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା କରିଦେଲେ ଯେମିତି ଅନପପୁଲାର ଶାସନ ହେବ ନାହିଁ, ଯେମିତି ଅଫିସିଆଲ୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କର ମିସରୁଲ ହେବ ନାହିଁ, ତାର ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା ସେ କରିଥିଲେ. He introduced transfer system for the officials like Amirs and Sikdars. ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ପ୍ରତି 2 ବର୍ଷରେ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରାଯାଉଥିଲା. ସେହି ପ୍ରକାର ଅନ୍ୟ ପୋଷ୍ଟକୁ ସେମାନେ ଯାଉଥିଲେ ଏବଂ ସେ ପୋଷ୍ଟକୁ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର ହେଇକରି ନୂଆ ଲୋକ ଆସୁଥିଲେ so that they must not become a despot and there must not be misrule and unpopular rule. The revenue administration was completely reorganized by him. He divided the land into 3 types. He divided the lands into 3 types. It is it is an important job. It is an important job he created. Land was divided into 3 types: good, middle, and bad. It is in accordance with the production of the land. Then other parameter was regarding the other mechanism was measurement of land. The land measurement of Sher Shah was a scientific one. It was essential to assess the amount of tax. Accordingly, the tax was measured as one third of the produce. ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଜମିର ମାପଚୁପ ଏବଂ ଗୋଟେ ଜମିରୁ କେତେ ଉତ୍ପାଦନ ହେଉଛି ତାର ସଠିକ ବିବରଣୀ ରଖିପାରିଥିଲେ ସେ ଏବଂ କର ପ୍ରଦାନର କର ଅସୁଲ କରିବାର ଯୋଉ ସାଇଣ୍ଟିଫିକ ପରିକଳ୍ପନା ସେ କରିଥିଲେ. He introduced secondary gauge system. What was prevalent earlier? Secondary gauge system. One gauge was equivalent to 39 inches. It is also a scientific one. Appropriate measurement. Then revenue collection. In revenue collection, he appointed the headmen in the villages. The headman of the villages was in charge of the revenue collection of that particular rural settlement. And the village headman had to retain with him 5% of the collection as his labor. It was also an innovation. Then the exemption in case of loss of production. In case of loss of production, and he had also introduced the system of agricultural loan for the cultivator. It was the need of the time, and he arranged easy installment system for the repayment of the agricultural loan. He appointed potwaries to maintain records of the land in village of the individual cultivators. So the ROR was prepared in ROR was prepared officially with the help of the potwaries, and the individual cultivators acquainted with his rights and obligation. ସେ କେତେ ଜମିର ଅଧିକାରୀ ଏବଂ ସେ ଜମି ପାଇଁ କେତେ ପାଉଣା ଦେବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ ସେ ଆରଓଆରରେ ଲିପିବଦ୍ଧ ହେଇକିରି ଥିଲା ଏବଂ ସେଇ ରୁରାଲ ସେଟଲମେଣ୍ଟର ରେ ସେଇ ଅଫିସିଆଲ୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେମାନେ ସହଜରେ ପାଉଥିଲେ. That was also a good system. They were appointed in the village area. Then the ROR in the form of Potta and Kubiliyat was also distributed by him. ଜମିର ମାପଚୁପ ROR ଏବଂ ଲୋକାଲ ଅଫିସିଆଲ୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କ ଦ୍ୱାରା ସେଟା ଯେହେତୁ ମ୍ୟାନେଜ ହେଉଥିଲା ପରିଚାଳିତ ହେଉଥିଲା ସେଇଥିରେ କଲ୍ଟିଭେଟର୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ସୁବିଧା ହେଉଥିଲା ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ଦେବା ପାଇଁ ନିଜର ଜମିକୁ ସଠିକ ଭାବରେ ଜାଣିବା ପାଇଁ. So the revenue administration and revenue collection was very smooth and scientific by Sher Shah. Then Sher Shah also took steps to check corruption. Amirs were headed the revenue department, but the Sikdars were appointed there to supervise it. They were in charge of the collection and they had the responsibility of depositing that collection in the royal treasury. Then another innovation was reorganization of the police administration, for which he praised everywhere because it was an efficient system. There was a local responsibility in maintaining law and order, a sort of জন ଭାଗିଦାରୀ and then local responsibility was there in the maintenance of law and ଆଇନ ଶୃଙ୍ଖଳା ରକ୍ଷା କରିବାରେ ରଖିବା ରକ୍ଷା କରିବାର ପ୍ରଣାଳୀରେ ସେ ଲୋକାଲ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ବି ଇନଭଲ୍ଭ କରିପାରିଥିଲେ in that particular system. That we are not going deep into that. Then other officials in Sarkar, the duty of the Sikdar I Sikdaran was to watch and control criminal activities. The officer had, this particular officer had supervising capacity for the police administration. The same work was performed by the Sikdar in the Parganas. Sher Shah also simplified the deliverance of justice. No criminal was set free. Crime was rare. Punishment was severe. Then the administration of justice. There were officials like Kaji and Mir Adi. There was trial of civil cases. विचार ପାଇଁ ଶୁଣାଣି ହେଉଥିଲା ସିଧାସଳଖ ଭାବରେ ଜଷ୍ଟିସ୍ ପ୍ରଦାନର ବ୍ୟତିକ୍ରମ ଏଠି ଦେଖିବାକୁ ମିଳେ ଟ୍ରାଏଲର ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା ଥିଲା ହିୟରିଂର ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା ଥିଲା that means the administration of criminal cases was under the state and the crime was rare due to the provision of severe punishment. Then his other reforms. He improved trade. He made trade free from control of the state. He abolished varieties of taxes like the duties for internal passage, octroi tax, and others. Simplification of taxes so far as trade is concerned was a good step. It promoted trade activities in the empire. To support trade and economy, he had an elaborate system of coinage. He introduced new currency named Dem. It had different denomination. ଯେମିତି ଗୋଟେ ଟଙ୍କାରେ ଗୋଟେ ଟଙ୍କାକୁ ଭାଗ କରିକି 50 ପଇସା 25 ପଇସା ର ପ୍ରଚଳନ ଆଗରୁ ଥିଲା 10 ପଇସା 5 ପଇସାର ପ୍ରଚଳନ ଥିଲା ଠିକ ସେଇପରି ସେଇ ଦାମର ବି ଡିନୋମିନେସନ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ଥିଲା. Another innovation in coinage was biometallic currency. दुईटा मेटल रे नया करेंट से कॉइन से बाहर करथिले. Then silver coin that was known as rupee or rupiah and one copper coin. It was made purely by copper that was known as tonka. So giving importance to metallic coin and using technology in it was another achievement. Then transport and communication. In the field of transport and communication, Sher Shah had also acquired fame. He introduced an elaborate system of road network. He constructed 4 highways. The highways he constructed was famous as Sarak-e-Azam or Sarak-e-Azam, that is Grand Trunk Road. The fast and famous Grand Trunk Road was from Sonargaon to Peshawar. It toss river Indus. It served both land communication as well as water route communication from Peshawar to Indus. Then the second important road was from Agra to Multan via Burhanpur. The third important sadak was from Jodhpur to Chittor, and the fourth one from Lahore to Multan. Apart from making beautiful and elaborate road network, he had created facilities for traders and travelers. He built a number of sarais. He planted trees on the road. In the medieval period, it was a revolution, giving so much importance to trade and commerce, transport and communication was a revolution. ରାସ୍ତାରେ ଯାଉଥିବା ବଣିକମାନଙ୍କୁ, ଟ୍ରାଭେଲର୍ସ ତୀର୍ଥଯାତ୍ରୀମାନଙ୍କୁ, ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ଯାତ୍ରୀମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେଫ୍ଟି ସିକ୍ୟୁରିଟିର ସୁବିଧା ଦେବା, ସେମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ସରେଇ ଘର ନିର୍ମାଣ କରିବା, ରାସ୍ତା ପାର୍ଶ୍ୱରେ ପାନୀୟ ଜଳ ଏବଂ ବୃକ୍ଷରୋପଣ କରିବା ନିହାତି ଭାବରେ ଗୋଟେ ଇନୋଭେଟିଭ କାମ। ଦେନ୍ ପୋଷ୍ଟାଲ ସର୍ଭିସେସ୍, ରାସ୍ତା କଡ଼ରେ ଯେଉଁ ସରାଇ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ତିଆରି କରିଥିଲେ ସେ ସରାଇ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟାୟରେ ଡାକ ଚୌକିର କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ ତୁଲେଇଥିଲେ। ସୋ the sarais became dak chowki for the postal department. There he appointed horsemen to transport, to pass those mail or dak. It is recorded in various sources that there were two horses employed always in every sarai or dak chowki to receive the dak or mail from the previous chowkis and deliver it to the next one. Then he was also a builder. He built Purana Kila in New Delhi, Rohtasgarh Fort on the Jhelum, and his Boselam at Sasaram was famous for its magnificent and grandeur. Beauty, grandeur, and ପାଇଁ ସାସାରାମର ସେଇ ମୋସେଲମ ତାଙ୍କର ବିଖ୍ୟାତ ଥିଲା। Then in the last, about the estimate of Sher Saha, he was tolerant to other religion. He appointed Hindus in many offices. He patronized scholars. Malik Muhammad Jayasi wrote the famous Hindi work Padmavat in his court. I'm running short of time. Next, come to the second chapter. It is about Mughal administrative institution, Japti, Mansab, and Jagiri will discuss within this chapter. Japti system is a revenue reform program of Akbar. Todarbal, revenue minister of Akbar, had devised it, and that Japti system was proved as one of the efficient and effective land revenue system, not only of the Mughals period, but also it is a famous reform so far as the medieval period is concerned. It is a successful one. It gave far-reaching success by which the Marathas and other contemporary ruling dynasties, including the British, adopted it. Then the features of the Japti system. Japti system had an elaborate system of measurement of land. The provision of the measurement of land was elaborate here, that the whole land of the empire and land of the every farmer was measured. So far as the the area where the Japti system was introduced was concerned, it was introduced in from Agra to Multan. The land was measured into bighas, and the old system of measurement by simple rope was abolished. Here, the land was measured for the first time with the help of one bamboo jarif system. The bamboo jarif system was nothing but joining of two bamboo with the help of iron rings to have accuracy of length and measurement. Then the classification of land. The land was classified into four categories considering the cultivation and continuity of the production of land and continuity of the cultivation in that particular land in subsequent years. There were pollers, that is regular cultivated land, that is first category of land. Second was the poroti, the land left uncultivated after each crops. Then chachar land, that is third one, uncultivated land for 3 to 4 years after one crop. Then the fourth one is banjar land, the land left uncultivated for more than 4 years. Then fixation of the land revenue. He graded the land into three grade for fixing the share of the government. It was on the basis of the production from the particular land. Accordingly, the share of the government was fixed. The three grades of land was good land, average land, and bad land. Accordingly, the share of the government was fixed. Then, the term of assessment. That particular assessment was considered for a period of 10 years. So, the Japti system is sometimes known as Dahasala system. Dah means 10, Sala means year. এটা ଗୋଟେ 10 ବର୍ଷିଆ ପରିକଳ୍ପନାଟେ, ତେଣୁକରି it is known as a 10 years assessed 10 years assessed revenue system or Dahasala system. Features like payment of land is included. Then the system provided the provision of payment both in cash or kind. The government share was one third of the produce of the land. There was provision of the loans and repayment of the loan in easy annual installment. The system also provided remission of revenue at the time of loss due to natural calamities and other reasons, destroyed by the war and all that. Then, keeping of records. Receipt for all payments was a must for the cultivators and the collector of revenue. There was holding and liabilities of every farmer so far as the record keeping system was concerned. ଯେହେତୁ ରେକର୍ଡ କିପିଂଟା ସଠିକ ଭାବରେ କରାହଉଥିଲା ସରକାର କେତେ ପାଉଣା ନେଇଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ କେତେ ପାଉଣା ଜଣେ ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ କଲ୍ଟିଭେଟର ଦେଇଛି କେତେ ଏରିଆରେ ଚାଷ କରୁଛି ଏବଂ ତାର ଲାଇବିଲିଟି କେତେ ତାର ସଠିକ ରେକର୍ଡ ରଖିବାର ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା ଏଇ ଜପ୍ତି ସିଷ୍ଟମରେ ହେଇଥିଲା ଦେୟାର ୱେର ଅଫିସିଆଲ୍ସ for the assessment and collection of revenue. They were omils, kanungos, magdams, and potwaris. These officials were working in different administrative units. So, magdams and potwaris were in the lower administrative units, parganas, villages, and others. Omils were there in the sarkar level. Now, the merits and demerits of the system. The merit in the first consideration, liberty to deposit their revenue directly to the state treasury was a merit. Then useful for both the state and the farmers. It was a useful program for both the state and the farmers. It had the provision of check against the corrupt officials. There was no role of the middleman. Everything was made officials. It was recorded. So there was free from exploitation by the jagirs and the landlords. Then the demerit of the system. The demerit is the loss of the cultivators. କଲ୍ଟିଭେଟର ମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ସେଟା ଗୋଟେ କ୍ଷତିର ସମ୍ଭାବନା ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରିଥିଲା ସମସ୍ୟା ଥିଲା ଏଇଟା ଯେ ସେ ଆସେସମେଣ୍ଟଟା ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡର ଆସେସମେଣ୍ଟଟା 10 ବର୍ଷ ପାଇଁ ଥିଲା ଲଗାତାର 10 ବର୍ଷରେ କିଭଳି ଉତ୍ପାଦନ ହେବ ଏବଂ ସେହି ଉତ୍ପାଦନ ପାଇଁ ଯୋଉ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ସେୟାରଟା ଫିକ୍ସ ହେଇଯିବ ଦି ଆମାଉଣ୍ଟ ଅଫ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସଟା ଫିକ୍ସ ହେଇଯିବ ସେଟା ତାର ଗୋଟେ ମୋଷ୍ଟ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ଡିମେରିଟ୍ ଯୋଉଟା କଲ୍ଟିଭେଟର ମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ କ୍ଷତିର ସମ୍ଭାବନା ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରିଥିଲା ଦେନ୍ consideration of the production for the term of 10 years ଗୋଟିଏ ବର୍ଷ ଯଦି ଅଧିକା ହେଇଛି ତାକୁ 10 ବର୍ଷର କାଲକୁଲେସନକୁ ନିଆଯାଉଥିଲା ସେଥିରେ ବି କଲ୍ଟିଭେଟର ମାନଙ୍କର କ୍ଷତି ହଉଥିଲା anyhow that was a good system and it was innovative one so far as the revenue reform of the medieval period is concerned then the mansab system it is one of the integral part of the Mughal administration in administrative mechanism the mansabdar played an important role. They were in charge of the civil and military officers. On the basis of their service, their rank and file designation was fixed, generally fixed. ସେମାନେ କୋଉ ପ୍ରକାର କାମ କରୁଛନ୍ତି କେତେ କୃତ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ସିଭିଲ ଆଡମିନିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନରେ ଏବଂ ମିଲିଟାରୀ କ୍ୟାମ୍ପେନ୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କରେ ତାଙ୍କର ସକ୍ସେସର ହାର କ'ଣ ରହୁଛି ସେହି ହିସାବରେ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ରାଙ୍କ ଫାଇଲ ଦିଆ ହେଇଥିଲା ମନସବ ମାନଙ୍କୁ so they were in charge of both military and civil department it is a new designation and there was provision from transfer from civil to military and vice versa their duty was to supply a certain number of soldiers during the time of deed to the emperor. It was reorganized by Babur. He classified the Mansab into 33 grades. Mansab in the rank of 7,000 and above were generally reserved for the members of the royal family and the princess. It was not open to all. It had two important characteristic features. All the Mansabdars were or in charge of the Mansab were subordinate to the emperor. Then the designation of the Mansabdar or the post of Mansab was identified as two rank, Jat and Sawar. Jat indicate the number of horses, carts, elephant, etc. to be maintained by a Jat. Then Sawar. Sawar determine the number of horsemen had to furnish or maintain. Apart from that, there were other conditions. The Mansab rank was not hereditary. There was law of Japti. It is not the Japti system what we discussed just earlier. Japti here is confiscation of the property in case of the death of that particular Mansabdar. Then, because it is not hereditary, system of payment in case or Jagir. How it is the provision, the condition is that what type of payment system was there for the Mansab. Mansab ମାନଙ୍କୁ କେସ୍ରେ ବି ପେମେଣ୍ଟ କରାହେଉଥିଲା ଆଉ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ଇଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ଦିଆହେଇଥିଲା କଲ୍ଟିଭେବଲ ଇଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ଦିଆହେଇଥିଲା ଜମି ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଦିଆହେଇଥିଲା that was known as ଜାଗିର. But generally it is found that Jagir was preferred by the Mansabdar. They were not preferred for the cash. Why the Jagir was a preferable one for the Mansab? It was because the Jagirdari system, the Jagir or the power and responsibility not by receiving cash but by enjoying the land was a matter of social status for the Mansab. That is why they prefer Jagir. Then the gradation. There was elaborate system of grading the Mansab. Then holding the rank of one Hazari, having 1,000 horsemen or above were termed as Umra and below Hazari were termed as Mansabdas. ଓମ୍ବରା ହଜାରେରୁ ଅଧିକା ହର୍ସମେନ୍ ଥିବ ଏବଂ ହଜାରେରୁ ଅଧିକା ଯେଉଁମାନଙ୍କର ଥିବ ସେମାନେ ଥିଲେ ମନସବଦାର କିନ୍ତୁ 7,000ରୁ ଅଧିକା ହର୍ସମେନ୍ ଯେଉଁମାନଙ୍କର ଥିବ ସେଇଟା ରିଜର୍ଭ ଥିଲା ରୟାଲ ଫ୍ୟାମିଲି ମେମ୍ବର୍ସ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଏବଂ ରାଜକୁମାର ମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ. Then there was also provision of promotion to higher rank. It was on the merit basis. Then the classification, first class, if the Jat and Sawar ranks were equal, then the second class, if the Sawar rank was half of his Jat rank, then the third class, if the Sawar rank was less than half of the Jat rank, or the no Sawar rank at all. ଏଇଟା ତିନି ପ୍ରକାର ସେମାନଙ୍କର ଗ୍ରେଡେସନ ଥିଲା କ୍ଲାସିଫିକେସନ ଥିଲା in accordance with the power and responsibility they had. Now, the concluding part of the Mansabdar system. The Mansabdari system is a system borrowed by Akbar from Persia. It was a unique feature of the administration of the Mughals, but no doubt it had so many complex systems. However, it was one of the most important administrative machinery and instrument for expansion and consolidation of the Mughal Empire. Then the Jagir system. Jagir system is something like that of the Ikta system of the Sultanate period. The Mughal system of it is a Mughal system of revenue assignment. The assignment given as Jagir cultivable is lent to the officials. The assignment is known as Jagir, and the official who get it, the assignee, is known as Jagirdar. So there is sharp difference between Mansabdar and Jagirdar. It is an administrative system or mechanism like that of Ekta system, but the basic difference is Ekta was an administrative and financial arrangement, whereas Jagirdari was purely revenue-based assignment. Akbar divided the land into two categories: Khalsa, directly controlled by the crown, and the Jagir, assigned to the Jagirdars according to their ranks. Jagir were usually granted to the Mansabdar as governing class of the empire. Jagir were usually granted to the Mansabdar as governing class of the empire, but Mansabdar who received the cash payment were known as Nakdi. जो मनसबदार कैश पेमेंट नौथिले सेमानकु नकदी बोलिकरी कहा जाउतला. Then the Jagirdari was transferable. After 2 3 years, they have to transfer. There was no Jagirdar was allowed to retain the same Jagir for after 3 years. There were four type of Jagirs. First one, given in lieu of pay, Jagir Tankha, that is, given on certain condition, Musrat Jagir, independent and involved on obligation in service. It was a gift by the state to the officials, newly created officials, that is Inam Jagir. And the fourth type, assigned in their own homeland, that is Watan Jagir. There where the subjugated ruler or defeated ruler who accepted the authority of the Mughals, and they were considered as officials, but they were working in their own homeland, home state. That was known as Watan Jagir. It was not transferable. Then conclusion. On the long run, the Mansabdari system, then Jagirdari system created a number of administrative and revenue confusion in the matter of revenue. Finally, it resulted financial disorder and crisis. More Mansabdar in a period of time, there were more and more Mansabdar, but there were no lands to distribute them. It was more acute during the time of Aurangzeb. More Mansabdar, but limited availability of land. Finally, it was became a crisis, agrarian crisis, so far as the Mughal Empire was concerned. Now, within 1 hour, we have to complete other two chapters: religious toleration, Sul Ekul of Akbar. Let us discuss the background, how that type of policy was evolved, and how Akbar implemented that concept of Sul Ekul, that is uh, complete peace for all. The concept and understanding with regard to that policy was gradually developed. In the beginning, Akbar, let us see the beginning. ये जो religious toleration ଆଉ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଶାନ୍ତି ସହାବସ୍ଥାନର ଯେଉଁ ନୀତି, giving equal treatment to all, giving equal responsibility to all. ଶାନ୍ତିପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ସହାବସ୍ଥାନର ଯୋଉ ଆଇଡିଆଲ, ଯୋଉ ଆଦର୍ଶଗତ ନିୟମ, ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଦିନରେ ହେଇନି। ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ ଦ ରେଜଲ୍ଟ ଅଫ ଏ ଗ୍ରାଜୁଆଲ ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ। Let us discuss from the beginning. Akbar built Ibadat Khana, the hall of worship. He opened it to the people of all religion later on. He came in touch with all religions because he allowed the religious teachers of different religion to participate in the discussion. Finally, he reached to the conclusion that the truth is not only the part of Islam. That means what is known from Shariat and Quran is not the only truth. The truth regarding spirituality lies somewhere, and that is the universal truth. Accordingly, he introduced a new religion, Din-e-Ilahi. Finally, Din Ilahi ସର୍ବଧର୍ମର ସମନ୍ୱୟର ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରତୀକ ଥିଲା। He incorporated good points of every religion in that. Finally, he granted complete and equal freedom to all religion. Then, the policy of religious toleration, or the ideal of sul e kul, was began to implement. He convinced himself that the empire a is a composite one having ethnic and religious diversities. Then, being the supreme head of all, he wanted peace, stability, and harmony in spite of those diversities. For a ruler, it was essential to maintain peace and justice in the empire. আকবর ଦେଖିଲେ ଯେ ସର୍ବଧର୍ମ ସମନ୍ୱୟର ଆବଶ୍ୟକତା ରହିଛି, ଧର୍ମ ମଧ୍ୟରେ ସମ୍ପର୍କ ରହିବାର ଆବଶ୍ୟକତା ରହିଛି। ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଧର୍ମର ଏଥନିକ ଗୋଷ୍ଠୀର ଲୋକ, ରେସ୍ର ଲୋକ, ବର୍ଣ୍ଣର ଲୋକ, ଜାତିର ଲୋକ ଥିଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେମାନଙ୍କ ମଧ୍ୟରେ ସହାବସ୍ଥାନର, ସୁସମ୍ପର୍କର, ବ୍ରଦରହୁଡର ଆବଶ୍ୟକତା ରହିଛି। ନହେଲେ ପିସ୍ ଜଷ୍ଟିସ୍ ଏମ୍ପାୟାରରେ ମେଣ୍ଟେନ୍ କରିହେବ ନାହିଁ। So, implementing that particular policy was a political compulsion. ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ରାଜନୈତିକ ବାଧ୍ୟବାଧକତା ମଧ୍ୟ, apart from his religious and spiritual understanding. ତାଙ୍କର ଧର୍ମ ଏବଂ ଆଧ୍ୟାତ୍ମିକ ଉପଲବ୍ଧି ବ୍ୟତୀତ ଗୋଟେ ରାଜନୈତିକ ଅଭିପ୍ରାୟ ଥିଲା ଯେ କେମିତି ଏମ୍ପାୟାରରେ ପିସ୍ ଜଷ୍ଟିସଟା ମେଣ୍ଟେନ୍ କରିହେବ। Then he followed the policy of absolute peace with all. That is the ideal or the concept of sul e kul. It is the policy suitable for an enlightened ruler like Akbar because he had that spiritual and religious understanding. His own conviction helped him to follow such policy. In Sul Ekul, all religions and school of thought had enjoyed freedom of expression, liberty of worship, and practice of their respective faith. But on condition they did not undermine the authority of the state or fight among themselves. That was the requirement of the state. এই নীতি ହିସାବରେ ଏହି ନୀତି ଅନ୍ତର୍ଗତ ସମସ୍ତ ଧାର୍ମିକ ଗୋଷ୍ଠୀମାନଙ୍କୁ ସ୍ୱାତନ୍ତ୍ର୍ୟତା ଦିଆଯାଇଥିଲା। ସେମାନେ ପୂଜା ପଦ୍ଧତି ଏବଂ ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ବିଶ୍ୱାସରେ ମୁକ୍ତ ଥିଲେ। ସେମାନଙ୍କର ଧର୍ମଗୁଡ଼ିକୁ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ ରେସ୍ପେକ୍ଟ ଦେଉଥିଲା। ଧାର୍ମିକ ବିଶ୍ୱାସ ବିଚାରଧାରାକୁ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରିଥିଲା ଇନ୍ ୱାନ୍ କଣ୍ଡିସନ୍ ଯେ ସେମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଲଢ଼େଇ କରିବେ ନାହିଁ ବା ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ର ଅଥରିଟି ବିରୁଦ୍ଧରେ ସ୍ୱର ଉତ୍ତୋଳନ କରିବେ ନାହିଁ। Then the important part is the working of the policy. The ideal of Sul Aikul in fact influenced him to implement the state policy of providing equal treatment and responsibility to all sections of the community. Akbar abolished the tax on pilgrimage in 1563 and jizya in 1564. That is the that is the result of his ideal of Sul Ekul. ଏହି ନୀତି ଫଳରେ ସେ ତୀର୍ଥକର 1563 ଏବଂ ଜିଜିଆ କର ଯୋଉଟା କେବଳ ନନ୍ ମୁସଲିମ ମାନଙ୍କ ଠାରୁ କଲେକ୍ସନ କରାହଉଥିଲା ତାହା 1564 ରେ ଉଚ୍ଛେଦ କରିଥିଲେ। ହ୍ୱାଇ କାହିଁକି ଉଚ୍ଛେଦ କରିଥିଲେ? ଏଇ ଦୁଇଟା ଯାକ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ପିଲଗ୍ରିମ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ଆଉ ଜିଜିଆ ରିଲିଜିୟସ୍ ଡିସ୍କ୍ରିମିନେସନର ଗୋଟେ ସିମ୍ବଲ ଥିଲା। ସୁଲ ଏ କୁଲ ହଉଛି ସବୁ ଧର୍ମ ସବୁ ମତ ସମ୍ପ୍ରଦାୟକୁ ସମ୍ମାନ ଦେବା ଏବଂ କମ୍ପ୍ଲିଟ ପିସ୍କୁ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରିବା। ତେଣୁକରି ସେ ରିଲିଜିୟସ୍ ଡିସ୍କ୍ରିମିନେସନ କୁ ଆଖି ଆଗରେ ରଖିକିରି ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ନିଆ ହଉଥିଲା ତାକୁ ସେ abolish କରିଥିଲେ। Then he allowed the people of different religion in the services of the state. It is also his respect for the people of all religions. On the basis of merit, they were appointed into higher post. You take the example of Man Singh, Todar Mall, and others. Then he issued instruction to all officials of the empire to follow it. It is not a principle in name, but there was provision for implementation of this principle very smoothly because the ruler in the beginning was the ruler in the beginning had other religious understanding. Before the introduction of the or formation of the Ibadat Khana and Din Ilahi, Akbar was a true Muslim. He had love for both the Sufism and the ulemas, but later on he had other religious conviction like policy of religious toleration and all that. So his officials were instructed to follow it. Then, as a part of this implementing the policy, he had granted funds to repair, maintain, and build the places of worship of all religions, even if temples which were destroyed during the time of campaigns, military campaigns. The result of Sul Ekul. The ulema criticized him for introducing such a policy because it was against Islam. They termed that the Sultan is becoming anti-Muslims. Finally, the ulema instigated the Muslim public to raise a standard of revolt against Akbar. For example, Mullah Muhammad Yazdi, the Qazi of Jaunpur, issued fatwa against Akbar in 1580. He declared Akbar as anti-Muslim. It was opposed because of his equal treatment and sympathy to the non-Muslims. While the Islamic nobles and Islamic scholars criticized and rejected the policy of Sul e Kul. because the reason behind their opposition was that Akbar gave a number of advantageous position, high officer, high offices, and had the policy of religious toleration and equal treatment to all religion, was nothing but against the Muslims. That is why sympathy to the Muslims, giving equal treatment to the non-Muslims, sympathy to the non-Muslims, and giving equal treatment to the non-Muslim was against the existence of those Islamic people. That is why they oppose the policy of religious toleration and the ideal of Sulekul. Sulekul was one of the brilliant steps of Akbar so far as making him as a national emperor is concerned. It was a step which helped him to establish national integration so far as the diverse situation of the empire was concerned. It made him popular as enlightened ruler. It gave him fame and glory. Then he got some advantage from it. He got the support of the non-Muslim for expansion and consolidation of the Mughal Empire. Mughal Empire became great. The Mughal Empire became great. It was consolidated and it was a long-lasting one due to the support of the non-Muslims. So, as a political need, he introduced it and finally he got a success also. Then his idea, his idea of the religious toleration and ideal of the Sulekul, that is the peace for all, realize the ideal of making universal empire, realizing the ideal of making universal empire and the centralized empire got the regional support for its permanency. ତେଣୁକରି ସୁଲ ଏକୁଲ ଗୋଟେ ଇନଷ୍ଟ୍ରୁମେଣ୍ଟ ଯେଉଁ ଇନଷ୍ଟ୍ରୁମେଣ୍ଟ ବଳରେ ସେ ରିଜନାଲ ସପୋର୍ଟ ପାଇଥିଲେ ସେଣ୍ଟ୍ରାଲାଇଜ ଏମ୍ପାୟାର ଷ୍ଟ୍ରଙ୍ଗ ହେଇଥିଲା ତାଙ୍କର ଆଇଡିଆଲ ଅଫ ୟୁନିଭର୍ସିଆଲ ଏମ୍ପାୟାର ସ୍ୱପ୍ନ ପୂରଣ ହେଇଥିଲା ଏବଂ ସେ ସହାବସ୍ଥାନଟେ ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରିକିରି ସର୍ବଧର୍ମ ଭିତରେ ସହାବସ୍ଥାନଟେ ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରିକିରି ତାଙ୍କର ପଲିଟିକାଲ ୱିଲଟାକୁ ବି ପୂରଣ କରିପାରିଥିଲେ ବଟ୍ ଆଫ୍ଟର ହିମ୍ these ideals was rejected by the nobles. For the first instance, the noble rejected it. Then, after him, Aurangzeb imposed jizya tax, and there was no continuation of that policy of religious toleration and Sulekul. However, it is one of the important mechanism so far as the progress of culture and national integration was concerned. Then the last chapter, it is about Mughal art and architecture. Generally, when we discuss about the Mughal art and architecture, we give importance to architecture. But apart from architecture, it is essential to understand the growth and development of music, painting, and other art activities achieved during the period of the Mughals. Let us first discuss about the Mughal architecture. Mughal architecture is a mixed technique that we can say as Indo-Islamic style, Indian style, and Islamic style, that is Persian and Turkish. The architecture consisting of varieties of construction and buildings such as majestic gates, forts, mosques, sarais, palaces, and other buildings. The most prominent in the uh, prominent remarkable feature of the architecture was the building material. Sandstones and white marbles were used as raw material for construction of this material. That is the most remarkable feature of the Mughal architecture. It is a distinguished feature to point a Mughal structure, say for example. Then the special features. A charbagh style, that is the layout of garden in front of the building. It is special feature everywhere you can find it. Then erection of domes, construction of domes, minarets, and towers. The Mughal buildings, you find one can find broad gateways, open entrances, so say for example. Then other special feature is beautiful calligraphy, that is a decorative motif in the pillars and walls of the structure. These are geometrical patterns and inlays, that is carving in the walls and the pillars. The carvings is filled with semi-precious stones, color stone, etc. And the inlays is the inlays express different type, not only different type of motifs and designs, but also the sentences of the Quran, what we find, for example, in Taj Mahal. Then Petra Dura. Petra Dura, it is an Italian concept. Pictorial mosaic works using semi-precious stones in furniture and other decorative materials, tabletop, etc. Then, then Indo-Islamic influences on the Mughal architecture. These are the mixture of both Indian style and the Islamic style. These are arches, chhatris on the top of the structure, then the various styles of domes, then the development of Mughal architecture. Now, for our clear understanding and to discuss the subject within limited time span, let us discuss the architecture during the foreign rulers. Under Babur, the Mughal architecture was under the formative stage. The prominent architecture of Babur was Kabuli Bagh mosque situated in Panipat, Sambal mosque, that is also known as Jama Masjid, region Sambal, then the Ram Bagh of Agra, then the foundation work of the Din Panah Palace. Then architecture under Akbar. It is the period of Akbar marked as the growth stage of the Mughal architecture. The prominent architecture or prominent buildings of Akbar were Agra Fort, constructed in sandstone, the fort of Lahore, and the fort of Allahabad. Then the Fatehpur Sikri, that is the capital of Akbar in initial stage. It was constructed in red stone. In Fatehpur Sikri, it is situated around 37 to 40 kilometers away from Agra in Uttar Pradesh. Fatehpur Sikri complex bears so many structure like Diwane Am, it bears Hindu style, Diwane Khas, it bears it bears uh, Indian style, Jama Masjid, of that's the same Fatehpur Sikri. It's a pillar hall with covered passage and domes. The Jama Masjid has been described by art historian Ferguson as, as the Romance on stone. It is also an example of Indo-Islamic influence. Then the Buland Darwaja. The Buland Darwaja is 40 meters height. It is just it is built just before the Jama Masjid in Fatehpur Sikri. Buland Darwaja is a victory memorial. After the victory of Gujarat, Akbar built it for the memory of that victory. Then Panch Mahal, here is the picture. Panch Mahal. It is a five-storied building. It is a pyramidal structure having Hindu influence. Then architecture under Jahangir. Jahangir was famous for change of building material from sandstone to marble. The prominent architecture of Jahangir was Akbar's tomb situated in Sikandara, Anarkali tomb in Lahore, Shalimar Garden in Srinagar, Kashmir. Then architecture under Shahjahan. The period of Shahjahan is a remarkable period so far as the development of development of Mughal architecture is concerned. I am repeating, the period of Babur is a formative stage. The period of Akbar is a middle stage. Then the period of Shahjahan is the climax phase of the Mughal architecture. How it is? It is due to the use of large and double domes, frequent use of gardens in all structure, large gateways. Then another technique in the architecture, positioning of many buildings in one complex. For the first time, a number of structures were constructed in one complex, and the symmetry was symmetry and other things were maintained in that. That is a technological development so far as architecture of that period is concerned. Then ornamented pillars and walls, use of white marbles. These are the important development under Shahjahan. The prominent buildings of Shahjahan were the foundation of Shahjahanabad, a new city in Delhi, and the Red Fort. The construction of Red Fort started in 1618. Very often you will find question on the two important architecture, two important Mughal architecture. One may be the Red Fort, another may be Taj Mahal. Let us discuss two, three line about it. There were two entrances of Red Fort. One is Delhi Gate, another is Lahore Gate. Red Fort had several buildings inside the campus like Rang Mahal, Hira Mahal, Diwane Am, and Diwane Khas. A discussion on Diwane Am is a must when we discuss about the the uh, architecture of the Mughals. What is that Diwane Am? What is the importance of the Diwane Am? Diwane Khas. Rang Mahal is a mirror hall. It is famous for fitting of mirrors. Then Moti Masjid is also a structure inside that red fort. Now the Diwane Khas discussion is a must about it. Diwane Khas is a private hall where the peacock throne was installed, and peacock throne was considered as the most decorative work of the Mughal art, that we can say the sculptural work of the Mughals. The Diwane Khas was highly ornamented and the inlay work was very beautiful. There were use of gold, silver and gemstone in the Diwane Am. Then, then Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal, situated in Agra, constructed in the right bank of Jamuna. The use of white marble and Petra Dura technique is the most important feature here. There were round minarets in each corners. The central dome was very beautiful. It is built with inverted lotus design. There were decorative motifs, inlays with semi-precious and precious stones. The decorative motif consisting of geometrical design, inlays in the form of, in the carving of the stanzas of Qurans and all that in in the form of inlays. Then then the architect. Here is a question sometimes. Ustad Ahmad Lahori was the chief architect of Taj Mahal. It is said that Ain-e-Akbari and other, including other foreign sources, also gives us idea about it. That it is said that 20,000 artisans and laborers worked for 22 years to complete Taj Mahal. It was constructed in the memory of his. He constructed it in the memory of his wife, Mumtaz. Shahjahan spent around 3 crore rupees to complete it. Then, then architecture under Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb period was not so much uh, prosperous one. He faced so many problems, and that is why it is marked as the decay of the Mughal architecture. But he also constructed two important buildings, that is Badshahi Masjid of Lahore and Moti Masjid in the Red Fort. Another important aspect of the Mughal art is the music under the Mughals. Akbar, Jahangir, and Shahjahan patronized music, mainly Indian music. Here is also Indo-Islamic pattern in music we find during that period. Ain-i-Akbari referred to the musical instruments of that period. It referred to it referred to four type of musics. I am reading it. Bina, Sorod, and Tambura. It is first type. The second type Sarangi, Dilruba, and Mayuri. The third type of musical instrument, that is Pokhos, Tabla, and Dholak. Then the fourth type of musical instrument, it is Bina, Bansuri, and Surna. The- So four type of musical instrument had been referred by Abul Fazl. Then one musical instrument, that is Naubat. It is played by nine musicians. Amir Khusro was the notable musician of that period. He contributed a lot to the Hindustani music. Then another noted musician who adorned the court of Akbar was Tansen. Like architecture, various type of technique also developed so far as the music was concerned. Books were written, treatises were written on music. There were musical concert in the Mughal period that was developed to the high water mark, that is Qawwali, Musaira, and all that. Now, the last aspect of the Mughal art and architecture, it is the last aspect of the today's discussion as well. It is about Mughal painting. The Mughal painting is a remarkable one so far as the brilliant art activities of the Mughal is concerned. The distinguishing features of the Mughal painting was that the painting is developed in the court itself. So it is known as Darbari style of painting. Then the Mughal painting was nothing but a synthesis of Indian and Persian elements, Persian fables and tales with the themes of the Mahabharata was the central concept of the painting, central topic of the paintings. Then the prominent subject of painting during that period was the landscape and the scenes of India. However, many of its painting, Mughal painting, based on nature and with high aesthetic merit. Then special characteristic of the Mughal painting. Mughal painting developed to the high water mark during the period of Jahangir. The special characteristic what was developed under different Mughal ruler were the charm, refinement, and dignity of the work, the beauty of nature with bird, animals, flower, etc. was the other important character. Apart from that, to develop the technique, there was a school of painting. A school of painting was developed, and the school of painting is nothing but a distinct style having distinguishing parameter of painting. What were that Mughal parameters of the Mughal painting? That is the charm, refinement, and dignity, beauty of nature, aesthetic sense, and the beautifully chosen subject matters from traditions and realism. However, a technique developed. Akbar had also took keen interest for the development of painting. It influenced the nobles and associated ruler to participate in it because the painting was a Darbari one. And apart from the miniature and other painting, the use of color was also a prominent character of the Mughal painting. Then, painting under Akbar, he created a department of painting for promotion of painting. During his period, both secular and religious subjects were incorporated as subject matter of paint. He promoted miniature painting. The most important painter during the period of Akbar were Kesudas, Manohar, Govardhan, Inayat, Nanna, and other. Then painting under Shahjahan. During the period of Shahjahan, another remarkable development took place. His period is important so far as painting of the court scenes were concerned. And in many of the paintings, one can find lavish use of gold. But apart from court scene, the during the period of Shahjahan also gave emphasis on divinity concept. Now, the concluding part, so far as the painting is concerned, the Mughal painting was nothing but a mixture of tradition and realism. There were floral and geometrical design with magnificent decorative borders. Border is a remarkable element in the Mughal painting. The border of Mughal painting borrowed from Persian style. In every painting, one can find reflection of nature, that is, due to the scientific ideas incorporated in the art. So, it is one of the important achievement. Then it reached to the climax during the period of Jahangir. Now, the concluding part of the block. In this block, we have discussed four important broad subjects so far as the age of the Mughals was concerned. In the beginning, we discussed about the administrative arrangement and reforms of Sher Shah, what is brilliant and efficient one so far as the administration of the medieval time is concerned. Then the second chapter, it is about the uh, administrative institutions of the Mughals, where we discuss Japti, Mansab, and Jagir. The third chapter we discussed was the policy of religious restoration of Akbar and the ideal of Sul e Kul. Then the last and the important chapter so far as the medieval history was concerned, the art and architecture of the Mughals. So this is the end of the class. Now I request the learners to go through the PPT and prepare notes for their examination and all that. I wish them success. And now, at the end, I over the class to Sri Ananta Kumar Das, today's moderator. May I end the class? Bhante sir?
Uh, Good evening, sir.
Evening sir.
Extremely sorry. Actually, there were some technical glitches today. That's why I was unable to attend the class initially. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving very deep insight to the topic and very transparent picture of the medieval India in general and particularly the advent of the Mughals. Dear learners, with this we have covered the block 4 of GEHI-1 History of India, and in this session we have discussed about the Sirsa administration and reforms, Mughal administrative institution, Japti, Mansab and Jagirdari system, the religious tolerance, Sulhi Kul, about the absolute peace policy, and the Mughal art and architecture. With this, we have covered all the blocks of this paper GEHI-1 History of India, and we are very much thankful to Dr. Trilochan Pradhan sir for giving a very clear picture of each and every topic to our learner, and hopefully, uh, I believe that all learners will be very helpful after going through this session. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much for giving your precious time to us. And in future, we'll try our level best to be in touch with you. And thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you sir. Thank you.
So, sir, with your permission, can we conclude this class now?
At the last, I thanks all the learners for a patient hearing. I thanks OSU for giving me a chance. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir.